Hi, everyone. My name is Father Michael Denk, the pastor here at St. Matthias the Apostle Catholic Church in Parma, Ohio. And I'm very excited to introduce to you Dick Russ. Well, you probably know Dick Russ already. He is a legendary staple in our diocese and greater. But you've been from the time I was younger, a kind of someone that I've really looked up to in terms of Catholic media and all the wonderful things that you have done over the years and continue to do over the years. So,
Well, I appreciate that, and I hope we're not overstating the case. But yeah, I've been around a long time. Actually, now in my 54th year as a professional
wow.
broadcaster. So, yeah, the time goes by real quickly, and we've been able to, you know, be a presence here in the greater Cleveland area, Northeast Ohio, for a long time by God's good graces, and we're hoping that it continues for as long as He needs me and us and the ministries that we're involved in.
Yeah, and you have some very exciting things going on with The Rock, which I want to talk about
Sure.
more. But I want to start off with I really like to find out, first of all, how your career began, but then also then how it shifted into becoming what I like to say is a call within a call.
Yeah.
You know, how God is uniquely using your gifts and talents for evangelizing.
Yeah, I kind of look at it like that as well. Well, when I was a little kid growing up in the inner city of Cleveland, for some reason I just loved to listen to the radio. And I was one of the ones that built the little crystal radio set, that
Hmm.
kind of thing, and tuned that in. And I had the little transistor radios I would listen to under my pillow at night, ball games from near and far. And, we're talking 65 years ago. Uh, and I always thought, I like radio. I like listening to the radio, who's on, what they're talking about, what kind of music they play. And then that also went over to television. I used to look at it and think, this is pretty interesting. And there's a hobby in radio called DXing. That DX means distance. And so you would listen to stations at a distance, write them down what they were, what they had on, and then you would write to that station for a confirmation. I'm in Cleveland and I thought I heard your station in St. Louis. Can you confirm it? And you'd put some tidbits down and they send you a response.
Interesting.
So I did that, and it's still a big hobby, by the way. There are guys that have cataloged thousands of stations that they listen to. Kind of a cool hobby. I don't do it anymore, but say by the time I was 10 years old, I knew the call letters probably of a couple of hundred stations
Wow.
all over the country. What they did, where they were, what cities, some of the personalities, who the newsmen were, DJs. And so I liked it. And then I was watching TV and I said, I like that too. That it was just interesting to me.
When you were a little kid listening, what was that like?
I got to, the thing I liked to listen to most was ball games.
Uh huh.
So I would listen to the St. Louis Cardinals, Minnesota Twins, Washington Senators, Chicago Cubs. I even got lucky one time and picked up a station from Los Angeles. And yeah, they were the Dodgers already. This was in the early 60s. But I liked that, and I would write them down. I knew who the announcers were. And the thing is, if you wanted to write to these stations, how do you get an address back then?
I was
Right?
wondering that.
Okay,
Yeah.
right. You don't go online. You take the 3 bus I did down Superior Avenue and go down to the main library and look through all the stuff and get all the addresses you need, and then
Wow.
in your own handwriting and the 3-cent stamp or whatever it was. And I still have those cards, from the chief engineers. So it was an interest,
Hmm.
and then it became an area of study, and then it became a profession. So by the time I was in high school, I was in the radio club or whatever it was at Ignatius, and then where am I going to go to college to study? And there were opportunities to go to some different places, but I zeroed in on Kent State of all things, and signed up for them pretty much just after the terrible things that
Yeah.
happened in May of 1970. And why? Well, they had a tremendous broadcasting program, and one that if you were serious about it and you had some ability, some talent, and authentic desire, you could actually get on the air real quick. They had an FM and an AM station, and it was exactly at the time when a thing called NPR was starting.
Oh, really?
So I can remember the date. It was the 30th of September in 1971. We had a big meeting at Kent at the radio station, and the general manager said, as you see, this is a new area for FM radio, especially those of us kind of toward the bottom of the dial. A thing called NPR is starting, and we're part of it, and there are roles for us here, and we're looking for people interested. And I was always the guy that would raise my hand. I learned that as a kid. Who wants to shovel the snow for $1? Who wants to do this?
Raise your hand.
That's the way I was raised. You're hardworking ethnic people, and so that's kind of where it started. And honestly, I was on the air 1, 2, 3, and so were some other people, because that's what we wanted to do. And it was a lot of work. There was no pay. It was all volunteer, plus your coursework and working and all the other stuff. And here we are, like 55 years later almost, and God's been good.
It's funny because I went into production because I liked being behind the scenes. And now I'm a priest and I have to be in front of the scenes.
And you're in front of the scenes, yeah. And for me, it's a little bit reversed. I was,
that's true.
in front of the camera for like 40-some years, and my duties now are almost exclusively behind the camera or behind the mic or in the control room, producing and doing other, you would say, administrative or management roles, and it's great. It's the way it's meant to be.
Right. So tell me about a little bit of the transition from working professionally in that career. Not that what you're not doing now is professionally, but from secular, let's say.
Yeah.
A little bit more secular to how did your faith begin to take part in this? And you were really on the cutting edge of, I think, using media for evangelization.
Yeah, I was raised Catholic, obviously, and had wonderful, faithful parents, and that stuck. And grandparents, when we all lived together, as a lot of immigrant families did. The parents, the grandparents, the kids, all lived in the same house, and there was an air of faith. No one ever. I went to Catholic school. Nobody ever missed mass. We lived right across the street from the church. I mean, like 50 feet away.
Which church?
St. Francis, the old St. Francis on Superior Avenue.
Okay.
And which tragically burned down in 1970, but that was a terrible event. But that parish, the school at least, is maintained there now, and it is one of the anchors of that neighborhood.
Oh yeah.
And without it, I think the neighborhood would be much less. But anyway, so my faith was always part of my life, for more or less. When you're a young man, you go to church, but maybe you're not delving into things as deeply as you used to. But it was always there. So in the 70s, I worked in the Akron area, pretty much exclusively. The last 3 were at Channel 23 there. I was the anchor man there. And then in 1979, I went to Channel 8 and stayed there for 20 years as an anchor man, reporter, special projects guy, all this kind of stuff. And Catholicism in Northeast Ohio, as you know, Father, it was pretty strong, right? There's a lot of Catholics.
Yeah.
I think around that time, in the late 70s, early 80s, there were, if you're probably close to 1 million Catholics, right? Fewer now just because of demographics, but it was important to a lot of people. We had, 250 parishes back then and 500 some priests. So Catholicism was a big part of people's life and any faith. And it was important to me, and I just kind of noticed that there were things left unsaid in the news or uncovered that I thought would be interesting to people. And so when we would have these meetings and come up with, well, what kind of ideas do you have? A lot of times mine involves something involving people with a religious dimension, particularly Catholicism. And that took hold, and it was appreciated, and we did a pretty good job at it. And then I think the real turning point was around Easter of 1981, when there was a gigantic pilgrimage by Faith and Light to Lourdes.
Ah.
So they would do this every 5 years, nationally and internationally. And there were thousands of people with disabilities and their family members or assistants, caretakers, going to Lourdes for a week during Holy Week in '81. My late brother was a gentleman with developmental disabilities. They use other terms back in the '50s and '60s, but they would call him slow or whatever, that kind of thing. And there were just some things. He was a wonderful man, and he's been gone about 20 years. And honestly, he taught me more about life and faith than so-called able-bodied or brilliant people, just in his simplicity. But that was kind of the call of Faith and Light.
Okay.
The group, the international group that was a Catholic ministry to people with disabilities. So Russell asked me, he said, St. Francis Parish, they would like me to go. And I need somebody to go with me. You want to go? Go. Yeah, I'd like to go. So, and it didn't cross my mind to kind of make this a
story.
Mm-hmm. Well, we had been involved with Faith and Light and that particular ministry for years. And I talked to some of the folks, and I said, what would you think if there were about 250 people with disabilities, physical, developmental, that sort of thing, going from the Cleveland area. Many priests went, and a couple of doctors in case you needed them. And I thought, yeah, well, this might work. And so a cameraman and I went and documented that, and it became a series called Pilgrimage of Hope, which was, my gosh, that was almost 45 years ago. And I'll just say it was very, very well received by virtually everyone who saw it. And it was kind of a mark that stories about faith, about Catholicism, in its deepest meaning of what it means to people who perhaps because of their conditions had something to teach us in their simplicity and in their approach to life. They totally disarmed us. As one person said, when you got there, it was the whole world upside down. And so we brought that back and made a half-hour worth of series out of it, and it was well received, and eyes were open. I said, this, reporting deeply on areas of faith and religion, and particularly Catholicism and how it affects people, and I just kept doing it. And over the years, did many features and things, and when I went to Channel 3 in 1999, I continued to do that, and it was part of the thing. And then other folks, I'm not saying that I started it, but reporting deeply and authentically about Catholicism, Christianity, those kind of values, and what it means to all of us in our community, it resonated. And so that kind of became the thing. Something would happen, they go, oh, who's going to cover this? Oh, go get the Catholic guy.
Yeah.
Go to Dick's desk and ask him about it.
Yeah.
But that was great. And then it got me more deeply connected with, I got to know all the people at the diocese and at the Eastern Catholic eparchies around here. And, they would call, hey, Dick, I got a great idea for you. This is going. Some of it worked, some didn't. But that kind of started it off, and here we are, all these years later, and that so those 40 years maybe, roughly, 43 to be exact, I thought maybe we're kind of a preparation, building these bridges, establishing this foundation for what was to become for the last 10, 15 years. And that's Catholic TV and Catholic radio. I really believe that. You mentioned that at the beginning, and I really think that it was the groundwork. Not that what we did for those first 40 years was meaningless. I personally, and a lot of the people I worked with, tried to put everything into what we did.
Yeah.
And we were able to make a difference in our communities. The secular TV business changed.
Right.
Economic forces, social forces, business, all that kind of stuff. And it was not as easy for us to accomplish what we were used to be able to do. And so it's kind of a crude way of saying it, but you look at it and you go, do I want to beat my head against the wall and just tread water? Or is there another way to do this? And if it is, what is it? And in the interim, I did for some years, have to have a job.
Yeah.
And I ended up working for a dear friend who had established years before a housing company for people with disabilities. So kind of things clicked
Interesting,
again, and
yeah.
I did that for 5 years, and then, kind of around about age 65, that was done. We both left that in good hands, and concurrently we were building the Catholic radio station, and concurrently I had created this TV program for EWTN, which is now entering its 16th year.
Is it
I'm
really?
filming next year. I mean, gosh, I just like, where's the time go?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the nutshell. I didn't mean to monopolize the time, but you ask, and that's kind of how
Well,
it
I
went.
think it's fascinating for people to hear, especially for a younger generation, because the media in general is like crazy right now. The news
Yeah.
media, especially.
Yeah, well, everybody's a newsman. All you
Yeah,
need is one of these, and like,
yes.
hey,
Everybody's got an opinion.
yeah, right.
But yeah, that it did. There was a significant shift from openness to talking about the faith
Yeah.
to really now that's very much pushed out of secular media.
Yeah.
Media has become very secular,
Yeah.
and I think it's something we take for granted that the leap that you had to take. You were saying instead of beating your head against the wall because it just wasn't going to happen
Right.
at that point, to taking in a leap of using media specifically focused on the Catholic faith.
Yeah.
And I've seen the fruit from you grow over all of these years of doing that. But our church, I think, is finally catching up to that too. Where the Vatican, the local diocese, the USCCB.
You right here doing this.
It's now. I think media has always been we're afraid of it because it can will be used against you in different ways.
Yeah.
But I think that you really did. You really brought us across that forefront into radio, into TV, and now we're obviously getting into social media and these ways to do all of that. But I just think that the foresight and the courage that took to do that. So tell us these years, what have been some of your major accomplishments that you've been working on?
Well, we got the radio station off the ground, AM 1260 The Rock, right? And as you know,
And that was what year?
well, we went on the air in May of 2015.
Okay.
So a little over 10, like 10 and a half plus years. And then just in 2025, this year, as we're recording this, we bought 2 other radio stations in Lorain County. And so that allowed us to expand out there. So we're like a little network now, the Rock Catholic Radio. And so, God's blessings have been behind this all the way in terms of the people that he's put into place to get these things going, to sustain them, the generosity of people who respond and support, and all the folks who volunteer. And, it's a big enterprise to run a radio station. And, it costs some money, and people are very generous in supporting it.
Yeah.
And, there's something that it was known as the Mother Angelica effect. So I can't do a Mother Angelica impersonation. Some people do.
I'll try
But
at least.
No. I'll leave it up to Raymond Arroyo, the guy at the network who does it
Yeah, he
perfectly,
does,
who is
yeah.
her confidant. But she, they would say, Mother, we really need. We need this piece of equipment, and it costs $500,000. And she'd say, well, just go order it. But Mother, we have no money. Go get it. God will provide the money. Okay, even a faithful person is going to go, all right, yeah. And Mother would go in front of the Blessed Sacrament for hours, and she'd sit there and she goes, Jesus, you need a new whatever piece of equipment. Now they're bringing it next week, and you got to find a way to pay for it. Okay, it's your equipment, it's for you. So and every
Every
time,
time, yeah.
every time it would happen. So a few years ago, we needed a new transmitter, and the transmitter was like a big piece of equipment. I don't know, probably like about as big as that wall with all these years in this business, and technically I'm still like in second grade, but so it cost $59,935. Okay, so we put it on an appeal. We need a new transmitter. We didn't say how much we need, but in order to keep the station on the air, it's starting to sound fuzzy. The thing was like 50 years old. We need one. We got to buy it. It's going to be delivered. We've ordered it. We got to pay for it. I think in about 2 weeks, they sent the money in. If we counted it up, we ended up with something like $57,930. We were like $5 off of what it cost, and everybody, wait, this is the Mother Angelica effect.
Effect, yeah.
So God has been good through this. So getting this station up and started, and now mature, local programming, responding to the needs of the community, doing the outreach, going to the parishes, all the stuff we do. That it's significant to like start something up from nothing. And because you grew up here, that station 1260 was the old Wixie 1260, which was one of the. I can remember listening to that in the 60s, and when I was in high school. Well, that's pretty cool. And then, like, it ends up being your station, not mine personally, but doing God's work. It's like, where'd this come from?
Yeah.
This is like the cycle of from my perspective, from my life, of how this is all unfolding. I'm like, man, God is so good to us. This is really cool. And that Catholic radio was tried here in the mid-90s. It only lasted a couple of years because that was before EWTN radio. You had to do all your own programming. You had to buy it. You had to pay for it. You had to pay for the staff, and radio stations were much more expensive. And God bless all the people that tried, and I had a little hand in that, and it wasn't sustainable. So it went away. Or like Cleveland was without Catholic radio for well over 15 years, and then we started talking, and I think it was like around 2012. Serious people got together, and there had been other groups, and it started to coalesce, and here we are, all those years later, and that it's happening. So that would be, getting that going, and sustaining it and growing it. It's like any enterprise that you do. If you're not growing,
You're dying.
You're dying.
Yeah.
Especially in the broadcasting business. If you're not kind of creating something new and sounding a little, it would say interesting.
Yeah.
I
want to ask you about, because I learned a little bit about this from the last time I was at the Rock. When people don't think radio often,
Right.
But there is a huge audience there and a captive audience. Yeah. Why radio?
Well, because radio can be with you anytime, anywhere, and it ain't going away. There have been things that have been said, well, AM radio is dying. Nobody listens to it but so-and-so. Actually, there's something like 48 or 52% of people in the country at some point during the day happen upon AM radio. You're talking about 100 million people, right? And it's there, and it's accessible. It's not prone to the vagaries of weather or whatever. And one of the reasons they were going to try to take AM radio out of cars, and there was a lot of blowback, and we were one of the stations that were fighting against that. It's like $50 to put an AM radio in a car, but do $50 times 100 million cars. Anyway, but a lot of the pressure came from people here in the Midwest, because when bad weather comes, tornado or something,
everything's out but the
news
radio.
Flashes, your internet goes out, your electric goes out, stuff goes out. You can still get AM radio, and so it's here to stay. And it's not to say that, well, we have an FM, and a lot of people are going to FM, and if we could afford it, we'd also look for another FM outlet. But what's happened with radio, as you know, because you're, very deep into the media, radio has become a total niche market. Your sports, you're
Yeah.
a weather station, you're a talk station, you're a Catholic station, you're a Protestant station, you're a rock and roll station, you're an easy listening, you're classic, everything. There's very little overlap. You're a niche, and I know my presets on my, in my car, and everyone is a niche. And so if I need this kind of information right here, I go there, I go here, I go there. Not that I don't listen to the rock, obviously I do, but
Right.
Once in a while you got to catch, the local news at the top of the hour, and it's there. So that's a strength.
Yeah.
You would think it's a weakness, but to me it's a strength. And so our thing at the Rock Catholic Radio is, how do we reach more people and tell them we're there? Because I got to tell you that the reaction we get, and we used to say when I was in TV and my wife was in the business for a long time, for every call or letter that you got, right, whereas letters anymore, or you could say email now, that represents 100 people who thought the same
did,
way
yeah.
and didn't, right? We get them all the time. Conversion stories, reversion stories, people inspired, helped. It's like, wow. Because even though it's a Catholic station, like every hour or every half hour, it's something different. This might be of more interest to women, this more to men, this more to people who want to know catechesis. This is prayer, this is the rosary. So whatever you want, there's a menu there and you can get it. Plus, if you didn't catch it, it's all online. I mean, we got all the apps and stuff. And
Yeah, which I think is great because you're meeting people where they are at
Yeah,
in terms of
yeah.
all those different venues. And it is a niche thing. It's almost like records. Records are coming back into style.
Yeah, could you
know what I
believe that?
mean? Yeah. So
I just gave how many crates of those away? I probably gave $1 million away.
Yeah.
Except the Beatles albums; those are still
still
in the
got 'em?
basement. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, some of them are like drawn on, but
Yeah.
they're there.
Any stories come to mind of conversion stories or reversion stories?
From the Rock?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we had a guy who drove a cab, and he used to listen. It was actually a cab. This was earlier on, and he might drive Uber now or something. I don't know what he went to, but he happened upon it, and this is where a lot of people find Catholic radio. They're in the car and they're like, okay, what's on? And they hear something, and this is the thing about the Catholic radio, Father Dank, and you know this. You don't hear that stuff somewhere else. You hear guys talking sports or news or music. You heard that before. You hear a guy come on and he starts talking about something about the Catholic faith, whether it's a current event, history, something about a pope, a church father. How does the church deal with marriage or whatever it is, or kids? That's pretty interesting. And here's the thing. When you're in your car, usually you're alone. You're like, oh. I'll keep listening to this, right? I'll keep listening because nobody's here to
No one's going to judge me.
Yeah, I mean, what do you listen to that stuff on? Put some tunes on, right? And so this fella just happened upon it, and he's listening, and he hadn't gone to church for a while, and stuff started coming back to him. Oh, I remember that. I didn't know that. I remember that. And he actually came in to the radio station, drove up there, and he said, "Do you know what you people have done for me? Yeah, you've brought me back." And I mean, we had, so he was kind of a middle-aged guy. I mean, we had some younger guy. He looked like he's in his early 20s or something. He was in college, and he was home, and he started listening to it. And we actually videotaped something with him. And I mean, we met him in a church, and he said, "I started listening, and I was missing this. I kind of went away, and this is the real thing." So there have been many like that, and there's power in it, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you know that, and if it's said right and presented in a non-judgmental way, and our programming is like that. We propose, kind of like priests do.
Yeah.
We propose Jesus. We propose the tenets of our faith. We propose this way of life to you. Just think about it.
Yeah.
That's all you ask. Think about it.
Right.
And you know what I found in the news business is a lot of people, that you go out and do a news report on, they just don't want to think about it, about whatever it was. Did you ever think about this? No, I don't want to think about that. Well, just think about it, okay? And maybe things will be different. And so that's the power. And so our thing now is to try to, get these other stations. We're starting up a pretty big marketing campaign just to let people know, hey, we're there. If you've done this, yeah, it's okay. You tried that, yeah, it's okay. Try it. Just try it.
Yeah.
You know?
You know what else I was thinking as you were talking about the accessibility of radio?
Yeah.
With the new media, especially online streaming services, radio is free for the consumer.
Yep.
Right? And I think everyone is growing weary of all these streaming services that you now are having to pay for individually, and now they're including ads. And I think back to the cable days. You paid for cable,
Yeah.
and now they're paying like $150 a month for cable.
Yeah.
And there's nothing on.
You
flip through. You flip
it
through all
used to be
these
a
channels.
joke, right?
Yeah.
500 channels and nothing's on. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And but now the streaming services, it's just like you're paying for everything.
Right.
And I think what is great about The Rock is that for the listener, it's free.
It's free. Totally free.
Completely free.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Like God's word,
Right.
freely given. It's just out there.
Yeah.
And completely free. And then if people are so moved, they can offer some support. And there's no obligation to do that. But it's totally free. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I don't think about that sometimes. That you do. You pay for everything. You want to watch movies, Netflix, Prime, whatever you get. Okay, that's fine. But you add that stuff up, man.
Yeah.
Like even if you want to watch, I don't know, like your favorite team, the baseball, Cleveland baseball. I was going to say the Indians, the Guardians, Cavs.
Right.
I mean, I don't know, was that another $5.95 a month or $7 a month? Okay, well, I don't go to the game, so I'll pay that. It adds up.
It does. And just for about you're talking about different niche areas.
Yeah.
Just for about every niche, there is some kind of subscription fee now.
Yep.
That's what, that's the trend right now, is to get people to pay for a subscription. But as I mentioned, it's such a grace. It's a gift. That's what I love about the image of God the Father, that he just wants to lavish his grace on us. And I think you get that opportunity to do that with the radio. Is you're just putting it out there. It's like the farmer spreading the seed.
That's exactly
you
what it is.
Cast it out,
Yeah.
right? And some of that seed will fall on rocky ground, some will fall on fresh soil, and some of it will take root and bear 50, 100 fruit in this age and eternal life in the age to come.
Yeah, and you never know. You never know who you've touched.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mother Angelica had said, of all the stuff that has been done, and that network's been around 45 years now, and if we brought one soul to heaven, all this work, all these thousands of people that work there, all these millions that we had to do, what is a soul worth, Father?
Yeah.
I mean, you get a little older and you start thinking about, not that you didn't when you were younger, but more and more, like if you're rounding third and starting to head home, what awaits me, and what do I need to do, not to earn salvation, but to prepare myself and to bring as many people with me as I can.
Yeah.
So I heard priests, they say that's my job, to get to heaven and bring as many people. Well, for a husband, a father, a grandfather, a father-in-law, all this kind of stuff, and a guy in broadcasting. So what do? Got to get to heaven, even if it takes 10 billion years in purgatory, right? And guys in the media used to laugh about that. I worked in the secular media 40 years. That's 40 billion years in purgatory. But and to bring everybody with you. You start to kind of get that vision of what it's going to be like, because I trust God. Life down here has its ups and downs, but he said, eye has never seen, ear has never heard, the mind of man can never imagine what I have for you. And Father, I trust that. I trust it. I like to go out in my backyard, have a campfire, I don't mind, doing this, playing baseball or whatever it is, playing with my grandkids. This is all wonderful and beautiful. Going out with my wife to dinner or something, and these are all beautiful, wonderful human things that have great value. So you say, well, when they're gone or I'm gone or whatever, man, I'm going to miss that. But then you think what Jesus said. You have no idea. Okay, you haven't been wrong since. You've never been wrong.
Right.
So why would you be wrong about this? And so, at least for me, I look at that, and not to devalue anything here, but I look at that and I go, I wonder what? I wonder if, you'll play golf in heaven. I wonder if, you won't have to cut the grass. You'll just like look at it and it'll always be, thinking like a normal human being, right? Because we're restricted in those things. But what is it? What is this great joy that awaits us, and how does it mingle with our humanity, which Jesus validated when he came as a human being?
Right.
So,
we'll have bodies in heaven.
Right. It's both. It's both and so I don't know. I can't figure it out, but I trust.
I love that passage because all we know about heaven is that eye has not seen, ear has not heard. It's beyond anything that we could ever imagine, hope for, fathom.
Yeah.
Anything we could, beyond any dreams.
Yes.
So I want to talk about EWTN a little bit and your involvement with that. My kind of Mother Angelica stories were I was in high school, probably college, and get home after a late night or whatever, and I would flip through the TV and there was nothing on. And then would come Mother Angelica, this nun who was funny and could get to the heart of things as well.
Yeah.
And I found myself watching that, and there being she was filling a void in my life through the media and doing that. And I know that you have a connection with EWTN. I've worked with them for many years. What are you up to with them now?
Well, a dear friend of mine who's become my business partner and very close friend, Dr. Ray Garendi. Dr. Ray, he is a clinical psychologist, about the same age guy. He's father of 10 adopted kids, all of whom had rough starts in life, and so Dr. Ray was on the radio. He had a radio show starting in the mid-late 90s, and it was on Ave Maria Radio and picked up by EWTN, and dispensing advice. And he's got the personality. The base of experience, faithful Catholic man, nothing he hasn't seen or heard as a psychologist, in his practice and in his home life with 10 kids and all this other stuff. And so the radio show was really cool. And we got to know each other, and we thought, I said, this is a good-looking guy and everything. What if we could do this as a TV show? Yeah, we talked about it, and we met a number of times, and we kind of shopped around the idea to a couple of networks and smaller entities that had regional distribution. And okay, maybe. And Dr. Ray had the chops. He was on equal footing with Dr. Phil. Mm-hmm. He was on Phil's show, and he was on with Oprah. He was on all the networks. The guy could light up a TV screen with good advice from a Catholic perspective, and
funny,
and
but very
hilariously
very
funny.
Great advice, strong. He'd be very strong too,
with humor,
and say it, and then with humor.
Yeah, and break you up. But you said earlier, the media kind of this Catholic thing. Mm-hmm. So that maybe was part of it, because that dimension that a guy like him had kind of puts that advice and that conversation into another sphere that some people are maybe not comfortable with or not ready to deal with. And so, okay, well, we're going to do this on our own. And it took a couple of years, and we, drew up plans for a TV show and did a test run in 2010, a little local studio we had here. We had a partner at the time. And the guy from EWTN, this is like 15 some years ago, he said, well, I had known them. I talked to them along the way about what we're thinking of. Well, I'll come and see this first show that you put on, and he's still there at the network. Very, very excellent producer and administrator. And after after we were done, he comes out of the control room with me and he goes, "Man, you guys did a real TV show." I said, "Well, yeah, what'd you think? I only been doing this for like 40 years, and he's been on the air for whatever at the time. We'd like more of these. Let's have a deal for a whole season." And that was like 16 years ago.
Yeah.
So we did 13 shows, and so in 2026 we'll be entering, God willing, our 16th season, over 200 shows.
Wow.
And Living Right with Dr. Ray, the TV show, it's on 3 times a week on the network. So, to have 3 hours of 168 hours in a week, that's
pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's 2% plus of a major international network's programming. So we're grateful to God for that. But like we mentioned before, you got to keep it fresh. So every year we try to come up with something different and meaningful. And I mean, in the last few years, we've done a whole series on nursing homes. That very tough time in your life when mom or dad, I mean, how do you make that decision as a caring Catholic family? We examined all aspects of that. I mean, we did a thing years ago called Teen Think. So I may think like this, but you got to get inside that high school kid's head. What's he thinking, and why does he think like that? So we had these discussions in and among teens with, some adults. We've done things called senior moments, when people are in their late 80s, in their 90s, mid 90s. I think we even had a lady who was 100 years old on. Like, at this point of your life, combined with your Catholicism, how do you look back? What do you tell your family?
Yeah.
What do you look back on your life? How do you, I mean, sounds strange, but how do you go to bed every night knowing that maybe, who knows what's going to happen? And the wisdom, call it wisdom of the ages. What older people sometimes are discarded in our society now.
Yeah.
And but what can they tell us? So we try to find all these different venues. And I mean, it's a heck of a lot of work, but it's our ministry.
So good, yeah.
So this is kind of what talk about what all the skills or whatever, or, things that you've put into place in your previous life in the secular media, and now you
use
all
glory
those
of God.
for yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And for as long as He'll give us the health, strength, and grace to do it.
Yeah. You got me on the Dr. Ray show. It was a number of years ago.
Yeah.
So I'll
It was great.
try to put that in the description here of the chat. As Catholics, I think a lot of us struggle with the concept of evangelizing. And I think, so we're really trying to do that here at the parish, is help form people to really take that on and take it seriously. But sometimes it could be a very simple thing, and it could be as simple as sharing.
Yeah.
Letting people know about the radio station, letting people know about Dr. A, letting people know about something that they like. And oftentimes that's all it takes, is just someone to say, hey, you should listen to this sometime.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Or like you said when you were on the TV show with us, just take a couple minutes at the end of your day to examine your conscience.
Yeah.
Okay, another day went by. What did I do?
Mm-hmm.
Did I waste time? Did I do this? Did I do that? Could I do something better? What? There's this thing about the unexamined life, right?
Yeah.
Come on. You're a valuable human being. God knew you from the beginning of time. He created you. He loves you. He wants you. You're not a nobody, man.
Right.
Come on.
Yeah, and I love that.
I ran into that in the media all the time. Just, ordinary people who thought they didn't have any value, or people who thought that people with disabilities didn't have any value.
Yeah.
Well, come on.
What did your brother teach you?
Oh my gosh, my brother taught me about life. He taught me patience. He taught me unrequited love. He taught honesty. Sometimes guys like that, they say what's on their mind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They're like, some of them are like a little kid. I know my grandson, my youngest one, he's 4. He's a real nice yeah, nice young man. And I was talking with a guy, and the man left, and there's a guy I knew, and he turns around and he goes, "Boy, that guy was really fat," within earshot of like, "Oh
Yeah.
shit, I can't say," but you know, and also there, people with disabilities often have such a deep connection to God because it's unfiltered. All right.
Yeah.
There was a guy that I used to work with, and I'm not going to say his name because he did a lot of good, but then there was stuff that happened. But you know, he would say, and I agree, they're not encumbered by sometimes these lofty thoughts or these great aspirations of I'm going to be in this earthly life, whatever it's going to be, this great person doing this and doing that and accomplishing that. Their goals are more, say, restricted, but ultimately, I found through many of the people, their connection to God is that it's like we've got all these
Yeah.
filters in our head. We got these big heads, right? I'm going to do this, I do that, so smart and
Well, that's Jesus's, turn and become like children.
exactly.
To have that
Yeah.
childlike.
And so that patience is not always easy, and respect for every single person on the face of the earth. People say, what do you remember about all the tens of thousands of news reports that you did? Well, I mean, I remember the people, and I maybe don't remember their names, but I remember them, and I remember kind of like what they showed me, what they elicited from me, and so I would say I've met everybody from the guy that sleeps on the sewer grate to the Pope, and everybody in between.
Yeah.
And every single one has taught something, but you got to listen, Father. That's the thing. So that, to me, was the secret of being a good newsman or a good reporter. You listen.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to tell you their story. And so,
And dying for someone to listen, like
yeah,
really listen.
take the time. Start in your own family. Listen to your kids, right? It bugs me. I see somebody, "Mommy, mommy, mommy," and the mommy's like, "Mommy, mommy, what? That's your own kid. Will you turn around and see what he wants?" Or older folks, are dismissed.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
Anyway, but this is what's supposed to be the Christian life, right? Caring for one another, at least listening. And I told everybody that when they would call the TV stations or the radio stations, I would listen within reason. And I said, no, as long as you don't become abusive
Right.
or profane,
Yeah.
I'll listen to what you have to say. Because everybody wants to call a news reporter. "Oh, I got a story for you. This happened. This guy." Yeah. I mean, I said, and I would listen. If I could do something, I could do something. If I can't, I tell them. But you listen.
Yeah.
People are dying to be heard, Father. You know that. And they want to feel like they belong.
So I want to listen to you for a moment. I have a question.
Yeah.
For myself and for maybe some other younger priests that are getting into using the media, social media, radio. You have a lot of guys coming down there and doing different programs there. What is your advice for us? And I'll preface that by saying some of my hopes that are through this. Not only will people in the greater community of Northeast Ohio come to know Christ more people will come to know about St. Matthias and perhaps be interested in joining the parish. And then it's amazing the people that you reach that you would never expect around the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like we're doing something, I often joke, I think about Mother Angelica. What she needed to get something on the air would be multi-million dollars of studio equipment.
Right.
And now we have a smartphone and we
Yeah.
hit go live, right?
Yeah.
What would your advice be to some of us younger priests that are just getting started in this?
Yeah, I would say understand where the people you are trying to reach, as they say, are at. Okay? I'm not a big proponent of smartphones for people like under the age of 18. I think in large part, they're almost a death sentence to the soul because of stuff you could find on there. I'm not a fan of that. But kids in high school and college and younger people get to know where they are, and I think the younger guys know where they are. find a way to reach them, and be very active on social media within reason. And my other part is learn more about them, experience what they experience, talk to them, learn from them, interact with them. My best teacher was being with people. Okay, before I became a father, I mean, I had a dad, and you learn something from that. But then you learn exponentially about being a father when you have kids. So, and a grandfather, and that's just an example. But learn something about their lives so that when you are reaching them, you're doing it authentically. If you think they want to hear or see or do that, and they don't, they're not going to listen to you. So you've got to know how they live their lives a little bit. So bring them in, ask them. See, this is what I would do. I go, hey guys, look, I want to start this podcast, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. What do you want to hear? How would, if I said this, would you listen to it? Nah. We used to do that in TV all the time. Hey, if we did this kind of program, would you guys watch it? Nah. What if we did this? Oh yeah, we'd watch that. Okay. Ask them. Sample the audience, because if you're doing something that you think is there and nobody's listening to it, you're wasting your time. And so again, back to the news business, we used to do this. We try something. Let's try this. Nobody watched it. Forget that. And then you do the things that work, and then you sustain them. So I would say, have people in a circle. Have regular meetings. I know every priest's life is like filled 23 and a half hours a day, but hey, that's the job you ask for. And you can reach them, and it's fun.
Yeah, it is.
Even at the TV station, the TV program, and the radio station, we ask people, what do you like to hear? What do you want to see? And then you, as well as you can, tailor it to that. So that would be my advice to the priests, is to bring in some people you trust, young people, whatever, moms and dads, okay? If you want to know about what are the pressures of parents today, parents that are 38, 40, got a couple of 3 kids, all the stuff going on in their life. Maybe their parents are getting older. Ask them.
Yeah.
You can bring them in, find out about it. Have them invite you to their home for dinner and see the chaos that goes on. And, and it's kind of a good refresher, about real life.
Right.
That's been always my thing, like on the news. You can be as educated and ethereal and pompous as you want, but if you're not relating to people's real lives, you're spinning your wheels.
Yeah.
So I think I'm never going to tell a priest what to do, but I'm saying this, like real life. You got to catch them. What's bothering them today? What's good for them? What's bad for them? What do they want to know? And that's what I would do.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Finally, what is the best way for people to access these different projects that you have going on?
Well, you can go to EWTN.com, and when it says search, type in Dr. Ray for the TV side, tell you all about the TV program. The big showing is every Saturday night at 10 on EWTN. And if your cable channel doesn't have it, tell them, why don't you have it? Do you discriminate against Catholics? I'd be blunt. What? Oh, you have your other thing on, put the Catholic channel on, EWTN. For the radio station, I mean, it's AM 1260, AM 930, FM 100.3, or just go to therockcatholicradio.com and go to the App Store. Just look for The Rock Catholic Radio. Boom. I mean, it's Android, it's Apple. Grab it and listen away and tell us what you think.
Wonderful. Well, Dick Russ, thank you so much for your time spending with you today. As I mentioned, you've been a mentor to me, somebody I've looked up to over the years. Well, so it's just a pleasure to have you here, to get to pick your brain and hear about the wonderful work you're doing. And may God keep blessing you. The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
And may Almighty God bless all of you who are watching, and you in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen. Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining us.